Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hi, my name is Sidhu-Robb, and this is Activate Yourself. This is a podcast where I absolutely love having people on who change lives. They come in, they've changed their lives, they change other people's lives, because I think that life is not worth living, honestly, unless a part of whatever it is that you're doing is helping to make humanity better. And today's amazing guest is somebody that I really, really respect and admire for having dedicated her life to having done this, which is really, you know, having just an unusual thing and makes her into a really unusual, special person. I'd like to introduce Lady Val Corbetts. Lady Val, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, Geeta.
Can you please tell us about what you do? Because you work, well, let's say, how did you get started? Because you work a lot with sort of prison reform, but you started, it's a big love story, really, isn't it?
Well, I suppose it started when I met my husband, Robin Corbett. I tell you how we met, because I think it's quite a funny story. We were both journalists, and we were working at the same magazine. And it was my first day. He had been there for some time, but I just arrived. And I had a dress on that looked wonderful in the shop, but not so great when you had it. And I was going with the woman who's inducting me to lunch, and I said to her, "Does this dress make me look dumpy?" And her voice said, "Yes, it does." And that was Robin.
No!
And he was 6'3" and I'm 5'2". And so I looked up, and my first words to my future husband was, "What a very rude man."
Oh my God.
Anyway, fast forward, I've always had a media background, I wrote for national newspapers, BBC television, and magazines, and so on. But Robin was somebody who really wanted to help people, and he set his mind to getting to becoming an MP. And being a member of Parliament, which he then eventually got, made me realize that helping people was actually a very rewarding thing.
Yeah.
I had been brought up in a home where there was domestic violence, so I became chair of Women's Aid in West Hertfordshire, a working chair, by the way, on call every Tuesday and every 6th weekend. So I kind of got into the habit of, you know, helping people and trying to help the community. But then Robin died in 2012. And when somebody dies, you get a lot of attention, a lot of support, lots of cups of tea. But a couple of months later, they think, "Oh, well, you're supposed to manage it now, really, come on." And it was then that I was at my lowest point. And I remember looking at television at the Ryder Cup competition, of which the European team won. And the captain looked up to the sky and dedicated his win to his great friend, Sebi Ballesteros, who had recently died. And he said, "All men die, but some men live on." This was a eureka moment for me.
I love that.
That's what I've got to do. I've got to let Robin's amazing legacy live on. And that's really where I started. Do you want me to?
I do. I was just thinking that it's so interesting that one small thing in theory can just spark an entire movement almost. Yes. It's always the one tiny thing that makes you think, "Oh my God," and it literally changes the course of history. I love that. So tell me more. So how long were you married?
Married for 42 years.
Wow.
And so I was 12 when my mom died.
Clearly. When he died, you weren't doing this sort of work.
No, I wasn't.
Oh, that's amazing.
I had apart from Women's Aid, I also had I was working at the Hoxton Apprentice, which was a trading restaurant for long-term unemployed.
Yeah.
My friend Prue Leith got me involved because she was starting the restaurant with them, and she asked me to dinner there. And I said, "What do they do?" And she said, "Well, what we do is we take people from below the radar people who've never had a job, never had parental support and so on. We train them in the hospitality sector and we get them jobs. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. Can I help? And of course, her talent came out and dragged me. And I became a director, voluntary, of course, no money.
Yeah. But just to stop there for a minute, though, Lady Val, because that's actually really important. Because if you don't have a mindset of understanding that when you get a job, you need to turn up every day, that you need to turn up on time, that you need to, because that's so important. Like my youngest child has just got a job and she was late the second and the third time she turned up. And we were having a conversation. My elder daughter was saying to her, you cannot be late. And she couldn't hear us because of course it was only a few minutes. So for her, it was like, it's only a few minutes. And her boss sat her down and said, listen, you've got to pretend this is school. You've got to turn up. And she got that support at home of, are you awake? What time are you going? How important it is and how proud I was of her that she had a job. But if you've got none of that, then it's just a whole learning from the beginning, isn't it?
It is. And the thing is that I witnessed amazing changes in people. And really, this was very useful for me later on.
Yeah.
I saw people who had no chance. They were called NEETs, no education, employment or training. And by the time 6 months came off, they were solid. And the Mayor of Hackney handed out their graduation certificates. And I have to say, I was in tears all the time because this was the first validation these people had ever had. And so I started, my brief was to make the place more popular. So I started the Professional Women's Network there. And in 2010, the new government decided that instead of having little and very important and very successful small areas of projects, they wanted a large one. Mm-hmm. So they stopped our funding and we had to close, which I'm still furious about.
It's so stupid.
Because they've wasted billions I'm talking about, on trying to get huge companies to do it. And there's some people of those companies in prison today because of fraud, because all they did was tick boxes and they didn't do the training and all that we did. So that was one thing. And then after Robin died, I wanted his legacy. Now, his legacy was amazing, actually, because his private members' bill, which very rarely gets into law,
Wow.
that was granting rape victims lifetime anonymity in the courts and the media, which still happened today. I mean, it's still going on today, which is very good. And then he also was very much part of a regeneration in his constituency in Birmingham, Castle Vale. And it was a sinker state. If you had that postcode, you couldn't get a job, you couldn't get insurance and so on.
Yeah.
And today, because all the tower blocks came down, and it is a wonderful area today. And in fact, so good. And he did it with the people of Castle Vale. So when he went into the Lords, he took his title, Lord Corbett of Castle Vale, because he wanted to give honour to the people who had helped him regenerate.
So lovely. And also the thing is, when you look at something like this, what it is it's changing lives one step at a time, and it's making a massive difference. Because like these people at Hoxton who you've given 6 months of training to, they've come out with self-respect. When you've given in Castle Vale, you've improved how people are living, you're giving them back a sense that they matter, that they're not just a cog in this massive tower and no one cares about them, and they should just, because that's the worst part. And I'm sure this led you into what you're doing now, because what happens when you fall out of normalized society is nobody cares at all about you. And I mean, my children and I were homeless in 2004. So I really, really understand how nobody cared. And it was like, well, you're the person that's done something wrong, fix it. Even when you're a victim of a circumstance. And to me, that really matters. That's why I wanted to speak to you so much, because you give people who think no one cares a voice.
Yes. Absolutely.
So how did you then move on to this area?
Right. Well, Robin had been chair of the all-party penal affairs group. He always said, prison isn't full of bad people. Prison is full of people who've done bad things, and most of them need a chance to change. And privately, he wrote to several people in prison, and then we met them outside and we gave them lunch in our house and so on. So, and all his colleagues, when he took the job of chair of this committee, they said, it's going to ruin your career. Prison reform is so unpopular, you shouldn't touch it. And of course, he was a stubborn man, so he decided to go ahead. And it was that stubbornness that made me think, this is the area that I should actually travel down. And so I went to the Prison Reform Trust, a very prestigious group, and I had long discussions with then Director Juliet Lyons, and we decided to form the Robin Corbett Award. And I got some sponsorship, and this started in 2013, and we give £10,000 shared between 3 charities who do the most to help and support people from prison. Because
I love that.
Support from prison is just absolutely crucial. You know that we have the highest reoffending rate in Western Europe. We lock up more people than anybody else in Western Europe. And the reoffending rate drops from 55% and even more in some cases within 2 years to 19% when they have a job. So,
well, yeah, because a lot of times people reoffend because they have no other choice. They have nothing else. Yeah.
They come out of prison with this damn plastic bag full of their belongings, and sometimes they're transparent bags. I'm trying to crusade with a charity in my network called Only a Pavement Away. I'm trying to crusade for backpacks. They have to be large backpacks, but backpacks rather than just because they get on the tube or bus, and everybody knows that they've come out of prison. It's horrible.
So there's 2 things there, Lady Val, that's really interesting. Number one is that I love that the award goes to existing charities. So you didn't say, well, I'll just set up another charity, because then everybody's competing for, in essence, what's the same pot. So I love that you've made it, you're giving the money to existing charities. That's phenomenal. And also the fact is that when you come out of prison, there is literally nobody that cares about you. And if you have someone that cares about you, you're an incredibly lucky human.
Exactly. One of my networkers, Maggie Walsh, who's chief executive of a Fairer Chance charity, says when they come out, they need 3 things. They need somewhere to live, something to do, and someone who gives a damn. And that's the thing. Anyway, after the Robin Corbett Award, I kept on meeting people from charities, prison reform sector charities, who were working in their own small pond. And I thought, this is ridiculous. What we have to do is to crusade together in a sea.
Exactly.
So I started the Corbett Network for Prisoner Reintegration. And to date, we have 90 decision makers from major charities and social enterprises and CICs. And what we do is collaborate together to get jobs for people from prison, because you can't come out of prison on a Monday and start work on a Tuesday. You've got to be risk assessed. You've got to make a job ready. You've got to have support that, you know, I mean, I have people in the network who meet women and men from prison. They meet them at the gate. They take them to accommodation. They then get them settled, and a week later they start them in a job which they are fitted for. The thing is that they have to have the right fit. I mean, they're amazing stories of people who are doing really great things. There's a one of my members, RMF Construction in Birmingham. They work on the HS2. They have 75% of their workforce are from prison. And they say the reason is their work ethic. They're grateful for the job. They always turn up. They're reliable, they're loyal, and they're committed. And he says, when I go to sleep on a Saturday night, I sleep like a baby, because I know on Sunday they're all going to be there. And some of them, I mean, I interviewed some, and they're on our website, corbetnetwork.com. The videos of a man who is in prison, but he's allowed to come out on temporary license every day to work. And he's now the supervisor. So, you know, there's so much talent and skill in prison, and they've made one mistake, maybe 3 or 4 mistakes. But, you know, they are then asked, do you want to change? James Simpson, who's also one of my members, he is an arch exponent of this. He has made a huge difference to people's perception of what people can do.
Yeah.
And this September, I'm organizing with the Lord Mayor of London a conference called Recruiting from a Different Talent Pool. And we hope to ask people who, employers there, who are interested, because there's a huge vacancy list now, as you know, in the UK.
Yes, it's really a problem right now. But the other thing that I'm thinking about while you're saying this is we're literally, by you doing what you're doing, you're saving the country millions, because the re-offending rate and the actual cost for having somebody in prison, because they literally have nowhere else to go and nothing else to do, is huge to us as a country.
12 billion a year. 12 billion a year.
That's
Now,
insane.
well, each prisoner, each person in prison costs you and I, taxpayers, £40,000 every month, every year.
Wow.
And Eton actually costs less. It will save us money if we send them to Eton, because it's ridiculous. And then, of course, you have to cost in, it's more than 40,000, because you have to cost in the social services, the police, the courts, and the fractured families, because that's another thing that is not taken into account, that when somebody's in prison, the whole family is in prison, virtually, especially with women. I mean, 92% of children of women prisoners are in care. It's just
so it has the knock-on consequences of the carer parent being in prison as well.
And the things that you go to prison for, I mean, there's some people even now in prison for not paying their television license.
See, I heard you saying that to me, and I just think that's absolutely insane.
Well, the government did want to decriminalize it, but now with COVID and that, it's on the back burner, but they should. And there's other things. 42% of people in prison have been excluded from school, for instance. And so their literacy and numeracy rates are very low. And we've got the Shannon Trust in our network, which go in and use peer prisoners to teach other prisoners, how to read and write. So there's lots of things. We've got another one network called Children Heard and Seen, and they do fabulous work, absolutely fabulous work.
One of the things that's interesting about what you're saying is it touches on two things. One is that it's the sheer hopelessness, because when you're hopeless and you have nothing to lose, you end up being in a place where it doesn't matter what you do, because you don't value your life. I always say that people say, well, you were homeless with 3 small kids under the age of 7. And I'm like, that's the best thing that ever happened to me. Had I been homeless on my own, I wouldn't have cared as much. But I felt such a sense of responsibility to my children that it forced me to do more than I ever thought I could do. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, when it's this thing of I mean, admittedly, very Asian concept of pushing children into achieving things. But when you achieve something, Lady Val, you feel so different. The self-respect that you get, the pride that you get, the love that comes out of that for yourself. And when you achieve something, it's addictive. You want to achieve again because it makes you feel good, but it's also frightening because you're like, can I keep this up? Will I screw up again?
I know. I mean, it is very rewarding because I keep on hearing, and they send me lovely case histories. I'll just tell you about a couple. Frankie, we have a member called Code 4000 who teach coding skills in prisons. This guy, Frankie, was released in December of, I think, 2019. He had £46, which is what they all got. Now it's just gone up to £76. But it was £46 then. And no place to live, no jobs. He went to live with his grandmother. 3 months later, he gets a job at Lloyd's Bank in Leeds as a coder.
That's amazing.
The very first, we call them returning citizens instead of not ex-offenders. The first returning citizen they've ever managed to hire. And but he needed some relocation funds because he was in Peterborough and he had to get to Leeds. So the Corbett Network helped. That's one of the things that we do. And so he got from other people as well, he got the relocation funds. And, in 3 months, his life's completely changed. And what's more, the bank have asked for more. They've asked for more people
Oh,
because
that's amazing.
he is so good. And as somebody says on one of the videos we made, when you're in that situation, you don't put in 100,000, you put in 200,000.
Exactly.
You need that job.
But one of the reasons I also wanted to have you on as a guest is because you do all of this yourself, and it's actually voluntary and it's funded by donations. And I think that what you do is so incredibly important. I wanted you to come and speak to everybody about what you did, because I think it's so important for us to showcase it, because you can't do what you're doing, which you do tirelessly, unless you get donations. And you don't need massive donations, but you do need some donations to keep it going. If people are interested in learning more, if people are interested in donating, and honestly, if somebody comes out of jail with 76 odd pounds, every small amount really, really helps. How do people help you? What are the things people can do to help you?
Well, that's the nub of it, because actually I'm beginning to subsidize the social. It's a social enterprise. I'm beginning to do it from my own personal funds, and I really need the money.
Where do they go to donate? Where do people go?
Well, if they go to either the Lady Val Network website or the Corbett Network website, there is a donate button there.
So if you go to Corbett, how do you spell Corbett if people are going to the Corbett Network?
Corbett.
Corbett Network.
It's the
Corbett
Network.com.
.com. And the Lady Val one, how do you spell that?
Lady Val Network.
LADYVAL Network.
.biz.
.biz. Amazing. Well, it's because these little things are really, really important for people to be able to find you.
It is, because what we try and do is we try and give reconditioned laptop to people from prison who want to do courses, and we pay help with relocation funds and all that. But also it's stupid admin things, I have to pay for the Zoom, I have to pay for all these sort of ancillary things, which are very unsexy. It's not helping children or anything like that. So prison reform is not popular, and I think people's perceptions are changing, but very, very slowly. And it is so good. If they go on the Corbett Network website, they will see a video from a man who's managing director of an insurance company in the city. Yeah. And he's got a returning citizen in his research department, and he loves him. And he says, I'm going to ask other people to do from prison, because I get more from them, because they are so grateful, and the work ethic. As somebody else said, don't judge them on their past, judge them on their abilities. And that's all we ask.
And also a lot of people that have gone into prison, the psychopaths and all of that stuff, those are the stories, because they are salacious and it's all like, oh my God. But actually the vast majority of people are not those people. The vast majority of people have made small, really stupid mistakes and got caught up with those really stupid mistakes and ended up in jail. So of course it's through their own fault. But when you've got nothing, I really want people to understand that when you've got nothing and you can't see the future, you don't care what you do, because you don't value having a future. Because if your present is so bad, and if you look at child poverty in this country is enormous. You look at the number of illiterate in this country is nearly a third of adults are functionally illiterate. They are, and that means you cannot read or write a page. How, when you've got no money, you don't know how to read or write, and you might be the third or fourth generation that's never had a job, what is it you've got to look forward to? What is it that you're going to make happen suddenly in your head that's going to happen? We're so privileged because we do have families that helped us, that pushed us to study, to learn, to educate. And so for anyone out there who is listening, who feels any level of gratitude for having sort of there, but for the grace of God go I, because it's a very thin line, honestly, between having so much and having nothing.
Absolutely.
Then I would really urge you to go and have a look and donate even the smallest amount, right?
It's very, yeah. But you know, in 2019, I cut the ribbon on a fabulous grade 2 building called the Corbett Network, and they work with sex offenders, and they are doing amazing work. They have an 83% non-reoffending rate, and so I'm very, you know, there are lots of things that there is a huge parameter. Obviously, we can't touch paedophiles and people like that, but I'll just tell you a story of a man who had a consensual sex relationship with a young woman who looked 19, said she was 20. But when he dumped her, she went to her mother and she was 15. And that man is on the sex offenders register for life, absolutely for life. So he's one of the people that, you know, are being helped. But Robin always said, you know, prison shouldn't be about society's revenge, but rather a chance to turn a life in a different direction. And that's really, you know, sort of, if I had a banner, that would be about.
So it's rehabilitation, not revenge.
It's not, rehabilitation is the first step, but reintegration back into society, to get a job, to pay taxes, to have a family. And there are loads of people who've done it, but there's so many thousands who have no chance at all. And that's where the reoffending rate comes in.
When you wake up every day, Lady Val, what drives you to do this? What's the thing that makes you think, okay, another day? Because you work bloody hard.
I do. I work quite hard. So I've got these three networks: the Lady Val Network, the Corbett Network, and the Robin Corbett Award. The thing that drives me is Robin is living through these legacies.
Yeah.
Through these networks, two of which bear his name. He is living, and his life is worth living. I wrote a book called A Life Worth Living, and you know, he was a special man, but somebody who was really quite funny. I remember once he was looking at me in such an affectionate way, and I said to him very softly, what are you thinking about? And he said, the Housing Finance Act.
Love that. But also, I think we shouldn't discount, I mean, as I said at the beginning of this is a fantastic love story, but I think we shouldn't discount, Lady Val, the amazing legacy that you are creating, that you are leaving, and the difference you are making to thousands and thousands of people's lives. My biggest fear, honestly, I interview, like you, I interview regularly, and people always say, what's your biggest fear? And I always have this answer, which I think you personify completely. I see the space between every human, between you and me, as being immensely just packed with potential. And to not use that potential, I think, would be the worst thing.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'll tell you this story about one man who got £46. He spent £18 of that on a taxi to get to his probation officer in time. Because if they don't, you know, if they don't make it, they go right back to prison. Then he went into a shop and bought some food, and that was the £46 gone. So what's he going to do? Where's he going to go?
Where do they sleep? What do they do?
That's my fear. That is the fear that I live with all the time, that there are people out there that I cannot reach. And all the charities and the people that are in my network, they can't reach them because they can't get to them. And so probation officers do a amount of work, but they are so overloaded. I cannot tell you.
Yeah.
They've got too many cases. There are lots of people in the prisons who do great stuff, but you know, it's still the same old, same old. And we have Zooms for the Corbett Networkers, and I get the you know, top people there. And the chief inspector of prisons, I said, you know, is there anything more that we can do? And he makes recommendations to the Ministry of Justice, and they just say, yes, that's a good idea, but nothing seems to change. And that's what I'm on about. And I think you said, what do I get up? What do I do when I get up in bed? And what's the one I want to do? That's what I want to do. I want to change everyone's perceptions to accept that people intrinsically are not bad. And when they have help, they can be really good and productive members of society.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate having you on, Lady Val. Please go and check out the Corbett Network and Lady Val. And it has been such a pleasure. You're so inspiring. My name is Sidhu-Robb. This is Activate Yourself. And I hope this inspired you immensely like it did me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gita.